This is Fred Beck from Fred Talks Fighting. I'm joined over Zoom for the first time ever. Hopefully, it will be the first of many. I'm joined by Roundhouse Radio. It's been a while. You've been doing YouTube very longer than I have. It's fun, good to finally meet you. How you been?
Good to meet you too, man. Yeah. It has been a while since I've been doing this. I'm good. I'm good. Things are looking great lately.
I remember it was a long time ago. This is how long I've been kind of seeing your videos for. When everyone was saying, "Oh my God, get Roundhouse Radio and Wade Plem to collab," and you guys finally collabed, and everyone went crazy. This is like 2 years ago. Do you remember that?
I do, man. That was when I was at like 30K and Wade was at like 50, I think. So it was like way long ago when all this stuff was like first popping off. That's a deep cut, dude. That's a deep cut. I feel like most people like don't know that ever happened. The amount of messages I get where they're like, dude, you gotta collab with Wade. I'm like, I have, man. Like I've been on his live streams, like me and him have collaborated all the time.
Certainly. Do you think you're gonna do any more videos of him coming up though?
Yeah, I don't want to give anything away, but yes, for sure.
Okay, very
That's
nice.
that's my guy, man. Wade's a great guy.
He's an OG. He's been around for a while now, Wade. I'm not saying he's
For
old.
sure.
I'm saying he's been around for a while. But what have you been up to though? What's a day in the life for you nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, I've been just super busy. Obviously, last month was hectic, getting ready for 006. And I just, I do a lot of things outside of YouTube, especially in the past. And now I'm finally kind of transferring over and kind of dialing in and focusing on it 100%. So this next few months is what I'm kind of excited about because, I think that's really what it was is just I haven't been able to be consistent. I mean, you're a beast with it, dude. Like you're just like something happens and 3 minutes later it's up on your like Twitter feed or whatever. I just got Twitter like 3 weeks ago. So I'm just catching up, man. And it's exciting. It's exciting. It's a new thing for me. Like it's a new venture, obviously. Like you said, I've been doing it for a long time, but like to really dial in and making my main focus is going to be new. And I'm excited for it.
You were presenting on the 006 card a few weeks ago. How'd you find that for the first time ever presenting?
It was awesome, man. It was obviously nerve wracking, right? I was like, yo, what is happening? And it was like they fire from the hip a bit more than I expected, just as far as like they let the presenters, really do what they want to do as far as like how to present the show and everything like that. So I feel like that was maybe like a bit of a curveball for me. And the first hour, I was like feeling really like, just like a bit all over the place. But then once we hit hour 2, 3, 4, I was really feeling it, and I was in the groove, and I loved it, man. But the
Nice.
annoying part is the first hour is what they put online for free. So I'm like, oh, dude, this is my worst bid. It's like the part that like everyone's gonna see, but it's all good.
Did you find you kind of eased up into it? Like it was quite kind of tense the first like hour, and then when hour four came rolling by, you were like, okay, this is easy now.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's exactly how I felt, 100%. And once I got to be ringside a bit more, doing the ringside commentating, that's where I was like,
In the
I
zone.
was exactly. I was so happy to be there. I was like, this is my bread and butter, right? Doing a bit of like more like in between fighter interview stuff like that, stuff that I'd never done before. Whereas I've like, like on my live streams and just in general, like I've commentated these fights like a million times now, right? So it's like just a bit more comfortable for me. But it was
How,
exciting, man. It was awesome. Like Misfits, like it was such a sick event too. And I think a lot of people are sleeping on these like smaller events, man. Like the fights are good, and someone like me I've been watching boxing forever. It's pretty rare when you're watching like a boxing card to have fights that aren't like pretty dramatically different in skill level in boxing. Like it doesn't happen that often. Every single one of them is Misfits fights, other than like maybe one was like quite similar in skill level. So you have these like pretty even like competitive fights. They're lower level, they're amateur level, but they're fun, man. They were awesome.
the change in Misfits needs to make, and I think they probably will have made it now because they learned. Not many people went to Misfits 006. The crowd was very low. They need to make sure they get it the fight in the fighter's hometown. They need to make sure because none of those fighters are from New Orleans, so none of their fan base is
Yeah.
from New Orleans. Like Dean, if he's going to box anywhere, make sure it's in Tampa, Florida, because that's where his home crowd is, or in the UK or Tampa, Florida, because he'll sell loads of tickets in Tampa, Florida. When if he boxes in New Orleans, he will sell tickets, but it'll be less. Whereas in Tampa, Florida, it'll be a lot more. So just need to get sure they make that thing right because it was a really good. I watched. That's the first time I watched because I didn't go to it. I was covering the Kingpin one, and that's the one time I kind of sat there and watched the whole show through. And it is good. It's just annoying the lack of fans in attendance, but the actual fights, they're all 50-50 fights. I mean, the Kimbo Slice fight was really good with OJ Rose. There was lots of good fights in there, but it's just annoying that people kind of looked upon and looked down upon it because there was so much other stuff happening that weekend. But I've got to ask, how come you haven't done any interviews before? Because you're doing YouTube for ages. Who never thought anyone on?
I know, man. I'm just like, I just, my schedule is like the last 2 years, like I said, I worked full time. Like I had a full time job. I worked part time as well. Like I managed properties and I was doing YouTube. So like my schedule was like chaotic. So it's really hard for me to like slot people in. So I just I didn't even open my Instagram. Like my partner, she would like just keep an eye on it for the last couple of years. So that's why I never like got back to like there's like messages now that I'm kind of like figuring all this stuff out. That I'm like, oh wow, I missed that. Like I definitely should have been on your show like years ago. But whatever, man. It is what it is. Now, like I said, I'm like focusing on this more, so I'm able to like actually catch up on everything. But yeah, it was just hectic. Like it just is what it was.
But I guess people interviewing you. I mean, you doing interviews with boxers on your own channel.
Yeah, that's definitely something I want to get into for sure. I just hadn't like I don't know, man. It just like wasn't on my radar of things to do. I'm definitely learning about the like the social media game as I go. That's definitely something we'll incorporate though within the near future. I think for sure.
So
I'd love to do in person though. I imagine that's
it's
like
another string to your bow, isn't it? It's another extra thing you can able to do. So when you go and present, you're like, oh, this is even easier than I thought. It's perfect.
Yeah. I imagine it's a skill too. Like I imagine you're a lot more comfortable now interviewing people than you were when you started, right?
Well, now it's just more of a chat. It's more of a conversation. When I first started, like all the questions written down, I was be like, "How are you?" Like that. Now it's just like now I'm probably too laid back in it, really.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, man. Like, I think it's the way to do it.
You
Not
look
like overdoing the like breakdown of your questions and just flowing with it, man.
just relaxing as well, because I guess lots of YouTubers aren't used to doing many interviews, or they're not the biggest fans of doing interviews because maybe they've done some in the past. They might got tricked into certain questions that got them in trouble with a PR company or stuff like that. So I guess when you're relaxed,
That's a good point, man.
Relaxed as well. It's just moving on to 007. You'll be there.
No, I'm not going to be at 007, unfortunately. Yeah. They're talking about where we'll do 008 for sure. Just is what it is, right? It's obviously a huge card. I'm really new to it, so I think that they were kind of like a bit more focusing on just making a safe, solid approach with people that they might be more comfortable working with, and then we'll go on and we'll just keep growing from there and do the smaller events for now, and then get the big pay-per-views. I mean, 007 is a enormous event. Like we're talking about, that'll probably sell like hundreds of thousands of pay-per-views. So I totally get it. It is what it is.
008 is really good as well. I don't know if you know the card yet. It's in Nashville. Obviously, can't say any of the fights, but there are some quite good ones and new people coming on the scene. Will you be working that one instead, do you reckon?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. And that's the game plan moving forward.
And then Berlin after that?
Yeah, that'd be crazy, man. I mean, the schedule is crazy. Like I heard I'm not taking anything like in writing yet because like they've just been talking about mixing up the locations, which I feel like is probably some feedback about what you were saying about trying to make sure these are in the right places for like the current events. And I think that'll make a big difference. So I'm not taking like the locations as like gospel right now because that stuff could change. I mean, like, dude, back in the day, UFC, remember it was in Nevada and like fight week, they changed it to California, or maybe it was the other way around. I think it was the other way around because John Jones tested positive for like the picograms thing. So like they can move this stuff around like super last minute.
It'll be interesting for the Kingpin if Winnerson, Nunes, and the Julie girl make the final. If they move the finals to Brazil, it will be the smarter thing to do. It'd be interesting to see if they switch things up there. I guess that's one example I can think of off the top of my head.
That was wild that the whole arena left after Nunes.
Nuts, isn't it?
But you know what it is, man? A lot of people like underestimate the value of like international fans.
For Winnerson Nunes versus King Kenny, how does that go, you reckon?
Oh man, that's a good fight. I'm curious about that fight because you know King Kenny likes to stick behind his jab, but he's working on his combinations a lot more lately, kind of like getting a bit more comfortable taking risk, which is nice to see. And Nunes just had that bulletproof high guard, man. And I've been saying this for so long with these influencer boxers, and like the Kingpin event showed it like really, really clearly with Jarvis winning essentially just by using nice high clean guard, right? Just bouncing the shots off the guard. And then Nunes also, he did the same thing. He just pinned his freaking hands here. And it's so hard to get around that, right? Because it blocks 99.9% of the punches. And even the punches that do get through sometimes get blocked. Because a lot of these newer guys, you know, they see guys like Floyd Mayweather and they try to emulate that. Or they see guys like Caleb Plant, they try to emulate that. And it's like those are styles that have advantages, but they're like very unique to those guys. Whereas if you teach traditional boxing, hands up, coming forward, moving back when you need to, working the jab, you can teach something like that and they'll get to like 80% within 2 years. Whereas if you're trying to teach like the all this like flashy stuff, it's like, no, dude, it takes like literally like 100 amateur fights to get that dialed in. Like if you watch like Pretty Boy Floyd, like back in the day when he was like in the amateurs, he was not using the Philly shell as much as at the end of his career because he just hadn't mastered it yet. He was coming forward and just busting with these guys. So it's like, it's nice to see people implementing that a little bit better in the influencer space, because I think that if more and more guys do that, like you'd see a big change in their skill levels and just like the competitiveness of their fights.
I guess it's nice to see that they're kind of back down to basics. That is a good fight. Before I let you go, I know I'm cautious of your time. Let's just touch on the main event though for next weekend. KSI, Joe Fournier. Or this weekend coming up actually. How does that go?
Man, I'm definitely leaning towards KSI. I haven't done my full prediction yet, so I haven't like really broken it down in my head, because until I do my like predictions, that I don't know for sure. Because these fights are close. I have KSI as like probably a 2-1 favorite right now, in my opinion. So I'm confident that he should definitely win. But 2-1 is still like, Joe Fournier can crack. Like he can fight, man, and he's incredibly durable. He fought David Haye, right? Like not too long ago in exhibition. He got pieced up and David wasn't going super hard. But at the end of the day, he was in there with him and he hung with him. So there's a lot to take from that fight, because, David Haye is very good with his movement. KSI is pretty good with his movement, likes to pot shot. KSI likes to pot shot. And those are shots that Joe wasn't deflecting that well. So I'm curious about it. I'm not 100%. Like I said, I would go with a 2-1 favorite for KSI here, but it's a real fight, man. It's a real fight, and it's a good fight. It's a big step up in competition. The biggest thing is I don't see KSI like flatlining him like he did face temper. I just can't see that happening. I can see him like breaking him down over the course of the fight because he's just way more durable.
Did you think KSI was going to flatline face temper?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because face temper, he brings his chin way up. And when he gets crowded, every time he starts to throw and his chin like comes up as he starts to throw. And so it's just like, it happens to him throughout the course of the fight, where at the start he was like a lot more disciplined with it. But then once he starts to get more tired, you go back into your bad habits. And like in my breakdowns of him before, it's kind of always what I talked about, that he's tall. And when you're tall, you have to kind of come down to other fighters. Like a good example is AJ versus Andy Ruiz too. Andy Ruiz is a lot shorter than AJ. So AJ, when you watch him in the fight, he kind of like brings his whole self down so that he's not like too high above where he's punching kind of over the guy's head. Kickboxing and MMA, you get the knees, you get the kicks. So being tall is like a really great advantage. But in boxing, it's still definitely an advantage, but there's some disadvantages to it, right? Like Canelo likes boxing guys that are a bit taller than him, I think. Rocky Fielding, you look at Callum Smith, like he performed really well in those fights because he's able to kind of like pipple under their shots. So when you're fighting a guy like that and you're tall, you really have to bring it down, and face temper just doesn't do that. So I was expecting KSI to be able to knock him out for sure. But it was amazing, man. Like I did not expect like a one-punch KO. That I wasn't expecting.
So you don't think that'll happen with Joe Fournier? You think KSI by decision? Is that what you're reckoning for?
I don't know about decision. I know that KSI can stop him for sure. I just mean I don't think it would be like a one-punch flush KO. Like I think it would be like few shots get to him, boom, big shot, K goes down, he's back up, able to survive the rest of the round, K go into the next round, and then he's just going to break him down to the point where, he gets knocked down twice in a round or something, just isn't able to recover. But it could also go to decision as well. We'll see.
That's what's so exciting. If you're not there, you're going to do a live watch along for it then?
I think I will. Probably like a 90% chance I will. But
that's a smart thing to do.
Yeah, I'll make that decision, and like probably by the weekend I'll know for sure if I'm going to do a live stream or not. And
then you do your media reaction after. Make sure you always upload that like an hour later, don't you, on the spot?
Yeah, that's my bread and butter, man. Which is like a bit tougher after the live streams where you're like kind of gassed, and then I'm like, all right, let's edit for 4 hours. But they're awesome, man. I love doing that. Just right away, just blasting out that breakdown, because it just really helps people like understand what happened, because people are so pumped and they're so like the adrenaline's through the roof after you just watched like a great fight like that. So you kind of like miss what actually happened, and then to be able to go in there and break it down, I think provides a lot of value to people, and that's cool.
That's what you give them.
That's what I love.
It.
Yeah.
I know, because it's in the moment, it's trending, everyone's talking about it. That's why I upload all my interviews on the day for the fights. When you upload like 20 in one day, it's a lot, but it's still a lot worth it. It's a lot more worth it putting them up on the same day rather than like a few days later where people aren't as interested. So you can kind of peak and take advantage of everyone's interest on the subject. But I do appreciate you coming on. I'm sure it's the first.
Thanks for having me, man.
But what else you got coming up for yourself though in the near future? Anything on the radar?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna be focusing on ideally getting this 008 ready to roll. We're just gonna keep doing breakdowns, keep doing live streams, keep growing the Twitter. Honestly, I think that's a really good space that I was completely missing out on. Like the Twitter engagement's insane, and I just like wasn't even on it. So keep growing there and just keep focusing on making sure that I have a good solid game plan, and then probably start doing interviews and stuff like that, and just making sure to structure this properly and treat it like a professional.
Awesome, exciting. It's nice to know that kind of you got a plan and also exciting stuff in the future. But thank you. I do appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me, man. Thank you so much.